Remember how the rats in Dark Souls killed you that one time? Well, now you can be one. Like me. What's up, everyone? MTK here. So, back in 2021, a rat based Souls-like called Tales of Iron launched, and although it didn't get much attention, it was a sleeper hit in my opinion. But now the next iteration of this rodent saga has just launched, and it has improved upon what was already a very solid foundation. Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter is the sequel to the original Tales of Iron, and I'm about 10 hours into the game, and I can say very confidently, not only is it much better than its ancestor, but it's just a really good game even if you remove it from the first one and pit it against other games in the genre. So I wanted to quickly go over my thoughts so far and tell you why you might want to consider giving this one a try. So let's get some negative stuff out of the way first. The story, at least up to this point, is sadly pretty much a rinse and repeat from the first one, at least in the overall plot. Kingdom in ruins, save some citizens, defeat the evil invaders, pretty standard stuff. Now, I want to be clear, that is not to say that it won't have some kind of twist later on that maybe offers some redemption. But even if it does, it would have been much better if they had chosen to go a whole new direction that is fresh and unpredictable. So that has been kind of disappointing to me, but aside from that, there really hasn't been much that is not to like. Now, visually, there isn't much of a difference from its predecessor. That is not to say that it looks bad. I think both games look good. But I just want to honestly point out that when it comes to improvements, visuals is not one. But something that definitely has been an improvement is the music. The first one had a good soundtrack, but this one is just so much better. Especially during the boss fights, there's something about the rock music in the background of a fight between a little rat and a bat riding a dragon bat that just goes hard. And to top it off, there is a bat rock band in the background just shredding. It's pretty awesome. But aside from the look and sound of this game, it also has some really nice quality of life improvements. Things like being able to sprint was definitely on my wish list from the first one, and we now can do that in the sequel. There's also a grappling hook that is kind of like the 2D version of Sekiro's grappling hook, and there are more fast travel points, making it easier to get from place to place without just playing a running simulator. And keep in mind, in the first one, you couldn't sprint. So I can't stress how nice it is to have the fast travel plus the sprinting in this game. It really makes a big difference. Equipment and build variety also received a big upgrade in this game with the addition of elemental damage. So now you can sort of create your own playstyle and build that you like to use, which to me is a big part of a Souls-like. But I will say they did kind of screw this up a little bit, because although you can create a build and a playstyle in a way, they also did something that I hate and that a lot of other Souls-likes do. And that is that they made it to where the elemental strength and weaknesses of enemies are overdone, meaning that the weapons and armor that you have equipped make too much of a difference in your effectiveness against an enemy. The reason this is bad is that you find yourself pausing and equipping new weapons every fight pretty much, because your stuff just doesn't have a strong enough baseline to just power through. So it ends up making you switch your weapon constantly and takes away from that distinct playstyle element that I mentioned earlier. Anotria the Last Song made this same mistake, and I really just wish devs would learn to find that healthy balance that still allows the player the freedom to use what they want while also giving an interesting mechanic and metric to pay attention to. And there is a way to do that. I think Elden Ring kind of hit it perfectly in the way that their bosses have different strengths and weaknesses, but you can also take almost any weapon into a boss and still have a decent time fighting them. There's exceptions to that rule, and obviously some weapons don't fit that description. Some bosses have super high resistances, but as a general rule, you can find a build and a weapon and then use that build and weapon for the entire game. And in this game, you really can't do that. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, you might be enjoying it. If so, consider leaving a like and subscribe if you haven't already, which you kind of should have already. That kind of hurts. So let's talk about what is by far the best part of this game, the combat. And a Souls-like, really, the combat should be the best part of the game, in my opinion. And this game's no exception to that rule. Tales of Iron 2, and really this entire series, has some of the funnest combat you will find in a 2D Souls-like. The way it blends preset animations with the flow of player-controlled combat reminds me of a side-scroller Ghosts of Tsushima. Now, it's obviously not on that same level, but for an indie game, it's pretty dang good. It has a pretty deep set of mechanics that give plenty of opportunity for mastery and offers a decent level of challenge on the highest difficulties anyway. Tales of Iron 2 adds to this already great formula with spells, more weapons, and various quick items. The addition of traps adds a whole nother mechanic to combat that gives you another way to figure out how to get past difficult areas. Now, these new additions are fun and fresh, but they do take away from the difficulty a little bit, since having that many options gives you a variety of ways to dispatch your foes. I wouldn't call this a bad thing. I think it's awesome. But the original Tales of Iron is the harder game, in my opinion. Overall, this game is an upgrade on an already great franchise, and I would highly recommend that you play both, because Tales of Iron has always been a series that I feel like doesn't get enough respect in the Souls-like genre. The only thing I think it's missing is just the ability to create hundreds of offspring and then just overwhelm your enemies with sheer procreation until we roll up on Consort Radon with like 1,000 rat soldiers and then eat holes in all his favorite sets of armor.